What is up, YouTube? DwkVideos. I make military content, put it on the internet for you to enjoy. If you want, my social media links will be in the description down below. Go follow my Instagram to boost my ego. Today we're going to be watching Onision. Now, Onision is a YouTube OG, original gangster. This man has been on YouTube longer than me, and I started in middle school. I'm like 23 now, so it's pretty insane. He was that guy, if you remember, way back in the day when we were all young. I'm a banana. I'm a banana. He was in the Air Force before he got discharged. This is an account of his bad U.S. Air Force experience. Now, this is just him focusing on the negatives. So, of course, he's not going to just talk about positives. A lot of people on YouTube don't understand. It's like they're like, oh, you know, you only focus on the bad stuff. And it's like, that's the title of the video. So I'll cut him some slack for there. I know this guy's pretty... he exaggerates a lot of things. I thought I'd give you guys my opinion on it. Let's go ahead and watch it.
Someone asked me to make a video about my Air Force experience. For videos like these, I have a short attention span, so let's just get to the negative. This screenshot is from a music video that I made while I was in the Air Force. In the music video, I shit all over the military. And this is around the 3-year mark of me being in the military. This picture was taken of me while I was still at Lackland Air Force Base. As you can see, I wasn't a very happy camper. When I was in the Air Force, I cut my own hair a lot, because a lot of people in the Air Force are absolute psychopaths when it comes to your haircuts.
Should have joined the Navy, man. We're allowed to grow out our hair. Pretty relaxed, man. It just so happens that I recently got a haircut, but I like the medium fade. But you should have seen me a couple days ago, man. Like, at least like 2 inches on the side. Also, yeah, there's grooming standards in a uniformed service. It makes sense, man. Like, I don't get how that's much of a negative. That's expected.
If your hair even comes remotely close to your ear, especially in security forces, many individuals in the supervisory roles will flip their shit on you. And we're talking about your hair just touching your ears a little. So naturally, I constantly had to shave my own hair this goddamn short. And there were many points when I just shaved my whole goddamn head, but probably not for the reason you think. See, if you look at this photo closely, you'll see a little patch of hair that's missing. I went to a medical professional at Tinker Air Force Base because I had a literal cyst in my head and I wanted them to remove it. And they refused to remove it. Their reason was clearly that they didn't have enough medical experience to actually follow through with the procedure. They didn't refer me to another doctor who did know what they were doing. They instead just basically shrugged me off. So I went home and I stuck a needle in my head and I made the cyst explode out of my head. And the reason the hair was missing in that photo was because the cyst put so much pressure on my scalp that it conflicted with the hairs that were already there. This picture here is actually from me when I was in boot camp. We had a tech sergeant and a staff sergeant who were in charge of our flights. I was informed not long after we graduated basic, the staff sergeant was allegedly removed from her position due to her supposedly losing her temper and punching a trainee in the face. And
that shit didn't happen. You heard a lie. Bro, drill instructors do not punch recruits in the face. That is the dumbest, like, myth that's out there. And a lot of people are like, oh, I'm afraid to get hit. They will not put their hands on you. They're not going to lose their career over some kid. It's still assault. Like, in the military, you can't just go slugging another military member. It's still assault. You will get charged in civilian court. Like, yeah, you did it on a base or you did it in their military guy. Civilian police don't care what your job are, dude. You can't assault people. So, no, he's like, he said, I was recently told because she slugged a kid in her face. No, that never happened. Never happened.
This is no surprise to me. That training instructor was a nutcase. A lot of people would like you to believe that the Air Force is just a typical job, and that is complete and utter bullshit. One of the many unprofessional things that my training instructor did was isolated a few airmen, and then with one of her military friends, order us to assume degrading positions while she laughed at us. The position basically involved us laying on our backs and putting our legs and our arms up in the air kind of like this. With her authority, she forced us to maintain this position as she continued to mock us and dehumanize us. Throughout my
That's boot camp, dude. That is literally what you signed up for. You volunteered for that. That is the whole point of boot camp, is to break you down and then build you back up. Said they held us in this workout position and then yelled at us. Like, yeah. Dude, people cannot say that shit about the military, and it's like, yeah, that's the point of boot camp, dude. that was the whole point. I think you missed it. And talking about this degrading position, like, it sounds like some Tumblr like an essence soul of Tumblr, like as a collective community, like came out and formed a person, you know?
Experience, I saw airmen break down in tears, crying hysterically because of how these allegedly brave, honorable individuals had treated.
My wingman, aka person who shared my bunk bed in basic, was a former drug dealer. Many airmen were only airmen because they were given a choice by a judge between jail or joining the military. You're bagging on someone for trying to turn their life around.
Them. In fact, the first night of basic, spent a good amount of time comforting one of the airmen because he was crying so hysterically due to the poor treatment. But of course, when you go to sites that review the US Air Force, everybody wants to be a good old boy. We all want to be part of the team. This is America. If we say negative truths about the Air Force, we're no longer patriotic. My question to you is, if we're willing to defend a system of dishonor, how much honor do we ourselves have? America can't be great for blind loyalty. Blind loyalty is why Hitler rose to power. Blind loyalty is why Joseph Stalin was able to influence the deaths of...
That's a fucking stretch. Did you just compare the guy that was about to complete genocide on all the Jews to the Air Force, where you guys deploy and have Wi-Fi in 5-star hotel rooms? Bro, what?
Of so many people. Now, when I initially joined the Air Force, I was slotted to go into the medical field, which as far as career option goes is a pretty good one. Because the group SERE was located in Washington, SERE standing for Survival, Evasion, Resistance, Escape, I decided to go towards that career path as I would be closer to home. And of course they welcomed me in, because when I was there, they weren't getting a whole lot of volunteers. Basically what I would do in that career field is become a trainer for people who are higher risk to be captured by enemies. But within that career field was a bit of corruption. After basic, I went right into SERE, and one of the first things they did was fill a bunch of backpacks full of gravel and have us try to walk 4 miles in under an hour. This seems okay, right? Well, unfortunately, I started getting chest pains when I was taking part in these trials. But even so, my chest pains didn't stop me from finishing on time. In fact, I finished on time every single time. The problem with this is I thought the SERE cadre wouldn't put us in a position of danger, which is why I ignored my chest pains. But within 2 weeks after I was out of SERE, I was informed that someone actually had a heart attack while doing exactly what I was doing.
Damn, and he didn't say anything. It's almost like you didn't speak up when you were having pain.
They also had us put on these backpacks full of gravel, and they told us to walk through a swamp in Texas. Again, I blindly followed them. During our trials through the swamp, because I'm such a pathetic overachiever, I personally was leading the way through the swamps. However, what I didn't know is that the cadre didn't verify that the swamp didn't have venomous snakes in it. And because I was ahead of everyone, I was only saved from getting bitten by a venomous snake because one of the airmen...
Yo, funny thing about that, we were hiking through like one of the dense like little forest swamp things in Camp Lejeune. And we're doing land navigation, and I'm from the Midwest. I don't know shit about being outdoors. There's a copperhead snake, and I fucking like kicked it, and I looked down and it like slithered past me, and I told my buddies about it and explained it. They're like, dude, yeah, that's a fucking copperhead. And like afterwards, I was like, oh my god, dude, that could have went so bad for me, because we were just. Our instructors were like smacking like black widows, or what are those brown
recluse?
Yeah, recluses, brown recluses, whatever, off our tents. And I was like, oh my god. One of the instructors killed one of the snakes and then like skinned it in. He used an e-tool. Shit's badass. But yeah, there's dangers that come with training, man. That's part of the job. It's not for everyone. It's the military, man. Like, what do you expect if you go to war? The training isn't even like 1% of as intense it would be if you went to actual war, man. That's what you're signing up for. You are volunteering to train for a specific job if the time comes that you have to fight a war for your country. This guy isn't getting it. He's not understanding. Like, that's literally what he is supposed to be doing.
Behind me screamed out for me to stop before I walked right into one. When they yelled at me to stop, I immediately froze and I began walking backwards. I then switched my path to a different route, now going slightly slower and much closer to the group of airmen so I could have more eyes close to me on the lookout for further venomous snakes. Shortly after this time, one of the airmen literally disappeared under the water. Additionally, for some reason, the cadre didn't think to themselves, do you think it would be stupid if we put 70-pound bags of rocks on these airmen's backs and then put them in a swamp that at certain points gets deeper than they are tall? The airmen disappeared under the water because I was walking around the edge of the swamp and he felt compelled to walk down the middle. So I immediately had to rush after this airman, pull him back up to the surface of the water. So of course he wouldn't die. Were our Air Force superiors there to help him? No. The lower ranking members had to save each other. And those are just a few examples of how bullshit a lot of people in the Air Force are. And SERE training eventually...
That sounds exaggerated. I wouldn't so much take his word on that, dude.
It came to the point where I was going to have to kill a rabbit, skin that rabbit, and for some reason, as my fellow airmen reported, eat the contents contents of that rabbit's stomach. I never really thought about it in depth, but as it came closer, I became less willing to do that. You see, I myself as a kid raised rabbits. We always treated them with kindness. We never killed our rabbits. And repeatedly seeing how incompetent the cadre were, I was thinking to myself, am I really willing to kill an animal, skin it, all for the sake of these assholes? And of course I thought to myself, no, I can't do that. And so I told them that I didn't want to be part of SERE. As a result, they put me into the ROD squad. ROD standing for relieved of duty. Fortunately, for some time I've had web design skills, and the cadre at SERE wanted me to build them a website to advertise exactly what SERE is. So instead of scrubbing toilets while I was on the ROD squad, I sat in front of a computer and worked with web design software as well as...
I'm gonna guess he kind of failed out and then volunteered to do this because he had a YouTube background.
HTML. Now, by the time the group I was already with got back from their survival trip, where they did the deed against the rabbits, I came to learn that one of the rabbits wasn't properly killed before it was skinned, and that very same rabbit, realizing it was being skinned, freaked out and got loose. So imagine a skinned rabbit screaming as it tries to escape you running around the woods. The US Air Force, specifically Survival Evasion Resistance Escape Training, is to blame for that cruel act. I was also told that for some reason the cadre had the airmen...
With all the nerve endings around the rabbit, I don't think you can just clean shave a rabbit and have it still be alive. It would probably faint from the amount of immediate pain it would be in. I don't think it would be in a constant pain running around screaming. I don't think. I'm pretty sure before you skin it, you're gonna actually kill the rabbit. You know, maybe cut its throat, chop its head off. You're definitely not taking a jumping rabbit and just starting to saw off his inside of his body.
Fill their canteens up with swamp water, of course forcing them to drink that. So obviously I was very happy that I didn't go. Regardless, the SERE cadre actually liked me quite some bit. They were very pleased with the site I built them. I had passed all the physical tests that they threw at me, and they clearly appreciated me in general. So when I went to cross-train, they tried to help me not get put into a career where I'd be forced to kill someone. And the reason they did this is because I obviously couldn't even kill a rabbit for the Air Force, so why would anyone expect me to kill a human being? You may be asking yourself, why did I go into the Air Force unwilling to kill anyone? See, the fact is I didn't go into the Air Force with that mentality. Before I joined the Air Force, I was patriotic to an extremely delusional level. I thought Americans were always the good guys, and anyone Americans stood against were always the bad guy.
Certain individuals are bad in every organization, dude. Like, America as a whole is great, dude. Would you rather live in other countries? Like, you can freely make this YouTube video talking bad about the government. In other countries, they would literally chop your hands off. Like, yeah, there's bad eggs in every organization, man, but as a whole, the U.S. is, like, far above other nations.
Obviously, considering some reports say that we've killed over 1 million people in Iraq, others say at least 500,000, how could you possibly say you're the good guys when you've killed so many people in a country that, spoiler, never had weapons of mass...
Cherry-picking info. Bruno, do you guys see this? He disagrees with Onision so much, he's trying to pull me away. Stop.
He refuses to go poop.
Which of course was the reason sold to us as to why we were going into Iraq. But my point being, I had seen how incompetent the cadre were. I had seen how incompetent the training instructors in basic could be. So why the hell would I kill a rabbit for them? Why the hell would I kill a person for them when we clearly weren't as good of guys as I thought we were? Regardless, those cadre tried to help me in my cross-training. I even wrote down in the cross-training documents that I couldn't kill a rabbit, so I definitely couldn't kill a person, and that I shouldn't be put in a career field where I'd be forced to kill a person. And take a wild guess which career field they chose for me. Security forces. That's right. They made me a cop. And you know what a cop is when you're deployed? They're your typical combatant. There are a number of jobs they could have put me in. Could have been a mechanic, I could have worked in the medical fields, I could have worked in...
Yes. And you're gonna be at the gate a lot. Scanning IDs.
Logistics. There's a large list of career options in the Air Force. But they chose one of the most violent career fields for me. Because again, the philosophy I saw of higher ranking members again and again is that if you're in the rank of E4 or below, more often than not, fuck you. And I say E4 because in the military, E4 is the highest I ever got. Regardless, I had to accept my fate that I was going to be in security forces. And now that I know where my future lied, which was likely nowhere near Washington State, where I wanted to be, I decided I wanted to bring someone from Washington State with me on my journey in the Air Force. And that was the closest person I had to a girlfriend at the time. Unfortunately, in the military, you're not a free person. If anything, you're much closer to a slave. An example of what I mean by this is I actually had to ask permission to get fucking married. I had to go to my supervisor and ask him when it would be convenient for him.
Okay, that's a lie. Your leadership wants you to tell them about the marriage so that they can give you classes beforehand to make sure you're prepared to get married. At any point, as an adult, you can just go out and get married. That's another myth in all the branches. You can just go get married. There's no negative repercussions that will happen if you just go get married. They ask you to tell them about the marriage beforehand so they can put you into like marriage counseling classes before to make sure you're ready, financially stable, emotionally stable, etc. Make sure you're mature enough to get married. No one's forcing you to do any of that, dude. It's this huge myth. Like, I had to ask permission. No, you don't. You just go get married. There's nothing illegal about getting married. There's no UCMJ article about getting married. You can just go get married. You'll probably get divorced, but...
for me to get married. And you know how that fucking douchebag reacted to me? As if he wasn't even gonna let me get married. He was basically dangling me like a puppet, saying, fuck you, airman. You don't get to have a life outside the Air Force. I had already been living on base for months. I had only been off base once. Because when you're in training, there's often little to no opportunity for you to see the outside world. A lot of times it felt like a fucking cult. When I was in basic, just seeing a headline of a news article or hearing a few seconds of songs you used to listen to, that felt like the most amazing experience.
Bro, boot camp's only 2 weeks. 2 months. Still extremely short. Chill out. Chill out, bro. The point of boot camp is to separate you from all those things, to simulate what it would be like in war. Onision, this whole training is going over your head. It's simulating other events. They're not doing it because they dislike you.
Because of how detached from the real world they make you. And now I had to ask some fucking douchebag that I didn't give a shit about whether or not he'd give me the time so I could get married. That's the Air Force training environment for you. But the asshole knew that there was a good chance of him getting shit if he refused to let an airman get married. So I did get a small amount of time to accomplish exactly that. I went and got married, and then just like that, I was practically guaranteed to be able to live off base once I completed training. Because guess what, people? When you're single in the Air Force, a lot of times, once you get off work, guess where you get to go? Fucking work. You go from work to work to work to work.
Many bases I went to had fast food on base, massive Walmart type stores on base, bowling hours, etc. Well, that's because it's an Air Force base. Great strategy to keep the money airmen spend in the military, as well as promote complete isolation of their personal lives. Brilliant. Well, no, it's more of like giving them recreational things to do and build friendships throughout the base. They don't lock you from going off base. You can go off base and do all those things you just listed. It is way more convenient to have things on base. There's a Chipotle on my base. Do you think I want to drive off base to go to Chipotle if I want Chipotle? No, I'm going to go to the one on base. Like, just like at the next two, everything on the base is not taxed. You save money doing this. Like, the movie theater on my base costs $2, and we get movies before they even release in theaters. All those war moto movies you guys see, they come to military bases first. I don't know if you guys know that. There's so many pros. He put that in there like that's supposed to be like, oh, like, dude, you just made... You're going against your own, like, viewpoint here. Like, you're making it sound better.
To work, because many bases have on-base housing, especially it seems when it comes to dormitories. But this video is getting too long. Someone wanted to know about my Air Force experience. I was actually in the Air Force for years. I literally just gave you this massive list of complaints, and so far I've mostly only talked about the shit that went down within the first couple months. So I think you can figure out for yourself how truly fucked up the Air Force is based off these statements. But hey, thousands of people have given the Air Force a good review. I'm just some angry asshole. So you be sure to write me off, just like the Air Force repeatedly did throughout my career. Because
woe is me. All right. You guys, the military is a great organization. Air Force is known to be one of the best branches to join in terms of standards of living. So, Onision, I don't think you researched before joining the military. I don't think you comprehended what the military does or our training. And then I think your personality as a whole is just a complainer, a whiner. But again, everyone's opinion is their own. Appreciate you for sharing yours, man. I'm just sharing mine, and hope you guys watching enjoyed it. I'll see you guys in the next one.